Hello guys, it's Jamie F from the Jamie F podcast show. Recorded another video for you today. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you could like, comment and subscribe and share with your friends and family, that would be great, just so we can get that channel growing and get the content out there. So today what I want to talk about is in particular looking at sort of interviews and helping you progress in the workplace in a professional environment. It's something that historically I really struggled with, and I definitely think that it would be beneficial to share that information and educate others so that they can succeed where previously I didn't. So as a prerequisite, I just want to sort of give my position, sort of where I come from and my background. I know a lot of you will already know this, but I'll just run through it briefly. So I sort of my plan was always sort of to go down the academic route and then sort of try and get into the workplace in a professional setting. So I sort of left school, did my stayed on in school, did my A levels, then went from my A levels to doing my university degree in business studies. Then left my degree, and then from there went on to look at sort of opportunities in the workplace. When I graduated, actually quite a difficult time. It was a few years since the credit crunch, the recession had passed. So there were opportunities out there, but it was pretty scarce, to be honest with you. Quite few and far between. And I found that it was quite a competitive and challenging environment, as it is as a graduate. My background is I worked sort of had some experience when I was sort of doing my A levels and at university working in sort of a fast food chain, and I did quite well there. I was there for about 4 years. Got a promotion while I was there. It wasn't as sort of formal and it's sort of difficult to do as what it is in other organisations, but still had to work quite hard to get that promotion, and got recommended by my manager, did all my training, and then the promotion obviously got put through, and as I said, I was then training staff and helping others. So had a bit of a background, and I always kind of felt that I had sort of quite an advantage at university when I was going to leave university and look for work. It didn't actually really work out that way, because although I did have some good experience to work from, some of my friends who didn't have the experience did far better than me, and that's just because they knew how to interview and they knew how to put themselves across in an interview situation, whereas I really didn't. I had quite a few interviews when I was sort of working towards getting a graduate position or coming out of university, and I just didn't perform whatsoever. It was really poor, the standard because I just didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't really have the help before. I mean, in the industry I was working in before, it wasn't really a requirement to be good with competency type interviews and assessment centres and things like that. And my university, the course itself was very good, and ended up finishing quite highly ranked in the country in terms of when I graduated. But the actual propelling you to try and get you in the workplace, it just didn't really help at all. I think I might have mentioned this on a previous video, but we were also meant to have a year in industry on my course, and they actually had to restructure the course so that you could have that as an optional year rather than a compulsory, because the opportunities just weren't there, and I think the support wasn't great either. I know certainly I did apply for positions, and I don't think I really progressed in many. So I think it's a combination. I think you've got to take accountability yourself, and I was working quite a lot of hours in my sort of job that I had then, where I was working part time. So that potentially impacted me and hindered me, but I think there's a combination of factors why I didn't get that placement. But I went back to my final year, and I was looking at graduate positions and applied for a few things, had some interviews, and I even had 2 opportunities to get a position at a certain company, and very reputable company. went for and it was actually for an internship, even though I was a graduate, but it was quite a well-paid internship, so it was still was definitely value adding. I went for the internship that I went for initially was an interview, and I just didn't perform at all day. I just didn't really know how or what I was doing. Just didn't have any techniques at all, and I really just had a terrible interview. But I think they really liked me, and they said, "Look, we'll give you another opportunity, and you can come back again. And you have to come back as a group assessment centre, and there'll be sort of a variety of different roles, but it's another opportunity." So naturally, I thought, great, I'll roll the dice again and see how I get on. But I didn't really work on the interview side of things, and again, I just didn't really have a great day. I was just outshined, by quite a few other candidates, and a lot of them as well were actually interns, were actually still undergraduates rather than postgraduates. Like myself, I would have been. I was working towards sort of obviously finishing my degree that year, so technically I would have been going in as a postgrad, and I still got beat by other undergrads, so it just showed that I really didn't know what I was doing. So anyway, when I left university and the education sort of side of things, I looked at a few different types of positions, got myself into contracting, and then I won't go too much into that side of it for now, but I then went and did a temp position, and basically I was in a quite a reputable company in financial services, and basically I had multiple opportunities really to go for various positions in the company, and I just again I was ambitious, I wanted to get on, but I just didn't know how, and I was applying for things, having interviews, and just really not performing at all. And then when I had a new manager take over my team, and I basically said to him, look, I've been in this team quite a while, I'm a key player, but in all honesty, I'm looking to progress. I'm probably going to leave externally and take a look at opportunities. And he said, I'll support you, just whatever you need, I'll help you. That's what I'm here to do. And I said interviews are something I really struggle with. So put in some time with my manager, and we went over my technique, and we perfected it, and worked on like my confidence and things like that. And suddenly, I went from having sort of poor technique and really not performing in interviews to actually devising a way to actually perform really well. And since then, generally speaking, I've got a really high success rate in my interviews. Since I left that company and I've gone on to do other positions, I generally move on every sort of 12 to 18 months on average. And I've been successful in most interviews that I've taken, and obviously recently I've been going for promotion, and I have performed well but missed out, but recently got promoted again. So I recently got promoted in my current organisation. So again, I was up there. I was up against a lot of candidates who were higher graded than me. So I was actually an underdog in that scenario, and I still managed to get a promotion. So again, I can definitely, I think that definitely speaks volumes for my technique. So I think what you're all probably interested in, who are still watching, is actually talking about techniques and tools you can use to help you actually progress in an interview. So I'm going to go through some key tips and some ways to go about doing it, and then some of the, and talk about some of the techniques and structures you want to look to follow as well. So first thing you want to do, I think it's all about your mindset first of all. So I think no matter how, but you can't. Don't get me wrong. You can progress quite quickly, and you can jump, quite high up in a short space of time. But I would always say slow and steady wins the race, and I think you just got to kind of progress. Just one step at a time. You just think of it as sort of building blocks, and you just keep on adding blocks and getting more experience and skills, and moving on and keep doing that. And even if there's moving sideways is absolutely no issue if it's going to add value. So yeah, absolutely a big advocate for that. So first of all, I think you've got to understand what you need to do. I think you've got to understand, curb your ambition a little bit and say, actually, okay, I'm not going to get from, I might not get from point A to B straight away. I might need to sort of extend this out a little bit. I might need to look at some sideways moves and look at just building that way and getting more and more experience. So I'd say that's the first tip, really. And then when you actually come to looking at your interview, so I would first of all, when you have a look at your when the advert goes up for the position, have a look at all the key skills and competencies required for that position. Now, I'd always recommend booking in some time with the hiring manager if you can do that, and even asking them, what are they looking for? What sort of skills, capabilities, etc. are they looking for? Take a note of that. Ask about the job, what it entails, and what the expectation is for the successful applicant, etc. And get that information from the hiring manager. And then if you think that you're a good fit for that role and it's a good step for you, and because it's not also about you selling yourself to them, it's them selling the position to you as well. And if it's a value-adding position, then I definitely would recommend going for it. So I think once you've established that you want to go for the position, it's then a case of making sure that your application is tailored to the key points in the key skills, capabilities required for that role. Make sure you're demonstrating that in your CV. I would generally recommend that in a cover letter as well to go into a little bit more depth. Don't go too long with that. I'd say no more than 2 sides of A4 for a CV. Cover letter maybe 1 page, 2 pages tops really. I wouldn't go much more than that. Get that in. So that's, say, from there you do well and you progress to an interview. That's assume that's generalize with the word interview, and that's just assume that. Or I know you can obviously have phone video interviews and things like that. Generally speaking, your hardest interview would be sort of a face-to-face, maybe a video interview, which is a competency-based one. So that's talk about prepping for a competency-based interview. So what I would then be thinking of is, if you don't have any internal guidance in your workplace, because some organisations do have that to help you with sort of key questions and things that they can ask. If you don't have that, think about the key competencies that are linked to the role. Start writing all of them out, and then I would have a think about ways you've demonstrated that. And I would always prep in advance and have examples for each competency. So it might be organisation, it might be leadership, anything that's relevant to that role. For example, maybe some analytical skills, investigation, root cause analysis, whatever it might be. I'd have as many examples as you can get. Have loads of coverage to cover a variety of different scenarios. That way, if you get asked something, you've got a good chance that you've got some coverage in your existing preparation. And if you haven't, then you obviously have to think of something on the fly, which is always difficult. But something might come to mind. But if not, it's experience, and you can chalk that up, and you can then prep that for the next interview. But what I'd say in terms of actually prepping, then, so the key thing that you want to be doing is following a STAR structure. So that is a situation. So it's quite self-explanatory. So someone says, if the hirer says, give me an example of when you've shown strong organisational skills, you'd say, in this X situation is a time when I demonstrated these skills, and this is briefly what happened. Then you will need to talk. The T stands for task, so you'd need to talk about what were the key tasks or things that you need to do in that situation. Again, self-explanatory. You've got an A, which is action. So what actions did you take during that, obviously, example? So again, this is where you want to think about, think not only what did you do, but what did you do to sort of maybe inspire others as well. Things like that. And then your result is, what was the impact of that situation? You want to look at, what I would say is, you want to look at multiple stakeholders here. So you maybe want to talk about the impact to the organisation, impact to other stakeholders, customers, it might be some of your clients or whatever, whoever it might be. Think about what the positive impact was to them, and potentially the wider impact that has on the organization. So you would need to, again, I wouldn't obviously want to go into too much detail on these. You'd really need to have it's something you need to sort of chalk up on your own, but I would say as a starting point, read upon the STAR framework. If you're following that framework, you're in a really good position to do well, especially when you're looking at sort of entry level positions. Especially you'll be well ahead of the game, generally speaking. As you start to progress in the organization, then perhaps it's going to get more competitive. But I would always say as well, catalogue anything you're doing in your role, any competency, any skill, or anything you think, oh, that's quite a good example, I went above and beyond there. Note that, and that's something you can bring in as an interview example for later down the line. But yeah, absolutely. The key is really following that STAR structure and framework. Now, I say once you've got all of your examples down, I put them in the STAR format as well. So I write them out S, and then put a little one liner or 2 lines, and then put in a couple of lines for the corresponding letters in the structure. And then it's just a case of if you learn and prep and your examples well, then the key thing when you actually get in that interview is just concentrating on your delivery and how you actually go about executing that on the day. So you might prep for your organizational question, and then it's one of the questions that come up. So you then know, okay, I've got this example. I'd always peer review these as well, actually. So if you've got any family friends who you can peer review with, I'd do that as well and run the examples by them as well. But say you've done all that and it's a really good example, you then know, okay, I've got this example, I know it inside out, so actually I can quickly look at it, and actually I could just concentrate on delivering that and making sure I deliver it to the best of my ability. So yeah, really good technique actually to to do well, because if you concentrate on that delivery, you're making sure that the interviewer hits all the key points that you want to sort of hit within the STAR framework. And also I would also recap as well, just so that they're then aware of obviously all the key points as well. So again, just to reiterate the point, make sure you help the person note taking, recap everything and make sure they're clear on what's sort of happening next. But they're clear on what on what your example was, and it just means when they refer back to it, they've got sort of better quality notes as well. But yeah, so I would say there's some of the key things really to help you when you're in an interview and when you're thinking about applying for a position. So I hope that helps. I know it's a little bit long, this video. I just wanted to, again, I feel like the theme within my videos is a blend of personal experience, a little bit of storytelling, and then sort of going into some practical tips and skills and tricks and things like that. So I hope that you like that style. Obviously I'm prepared to amend things as as per sort of feedback I get, but I feel like it's quite a good structure for now, and I hope that's helped. Let me know if you've used any of these tips and tricks and techniques and how you've got on, if you've been successful. If you want to sort of reach out to me, feel free to comment, and I'll sort of get back to you all as well. And hopefully this helps, and take care everyone.